Professor Mohammad Marandi, what is the reaction in Tehran to these awful events in Lebanon today?
Well, I can't hear you very well, but in Iran, if I understood correctly, the reaction is with horror. Iranians, while the Iranian government has pinned the blame on the Israelis because they have carried out such attacks in the past, but I think the majority view is probably that Saudi Arabia has something to do with this. The Saudis have been pushing very hard in Syria and in Lebanon. Many Iranians feel that this may be linked to the Saudis, either directly or indirectly. If it is proven later on that Saudi money is indeed involved, I think that we're going to have a situation, an escalation in tensions in this region. But for the most part, most Iranians believe that the whole situation in Syria is basically the fault of the United States and its Western allies. Over the 2.5 years, they've allowed the Saudi regime and other extremist regimes to export their extremist Wahhabi ideology and to create a very horrific situation. You have tens of TV channels right now, at least tens of TV channels right now in Arabic being broadcast day and night that are promoting sectarianism, religious hatred, and racial hatred on a regular basis. And nothing is being done about this. They're being funded by countries like Saudi Arabia.
Professor Marandi, it is fair to say that Iran has been pushing equally hard on behalf of President Assad. There's even been fairly believable reports of Iranian Revolutionary Guards on the ground. This is increasingly a Sunni-Shia war and threatening to widen. It's hard to deny that, right?
Well, I wouldn't agree. I was in Syria just 2 weeks ago. My mother-in-law is Syrian. She comes from a Sunni family. Damascus, I walked through 2 markets in Damascus. I walked around town. The overwhelming majority of the people who I spoke to either supported the president or they supported him because they feared the militants and the extremists. So they support him for different reasons, those who I spoke to. But in general, the Iranian support for the Syrian government is because it is battling the sectarian extremist al-Qaeda affiliates. The same al-Qaeda affiliates who 10, 12 years ago attacked the United States, and the United States invaded Afghanistan and Iraq to fight against these groups. These are the same groups that are now very active in Syria, very powerful in Syria.
Right.
They're expanding their influence, and in the eyes of the Iranians, it's the fault of the United States and England and France.
Very briefly, is there any solution when viewed from Tehran? What is the solution? Is there any chance that there is a political answer? Because there's no military answer.
Well, the Iranians from the very start, and I'm sure you recall, they supported the Annan plan. The Americans destroyed that plan. Along with the Saudis and the Qataris and the Turks at that time. The Iranians still support all the different groups coming around at the negotiating table and finding a solution and holding free and fair elections next year with international observers. The problem, though, is that while the Americans and it seems that the Europeans are beginning to shift their position on Syria and they're beginning to recognize the monster that they've created, the Saudis are still pushing very hard on this front. And if the United States and the Europeans don't want to make this issue more dangerous, they have to put pressure on Saudi Arabia.
Professor Marandi, thank you very much indeed for joining us live from Tehran.